And then comes a beautiful answer. I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man comes, will he really find faith on the earth? Is he going to find this kind of faith that the widow had? Is he going to find a church that has this kind of faith at the end of time? We're going to notice in Revelation that there will be a group that will have that kind of faith. You know, this makes me think of the experience of Jesus. The end time will be similar to the experience that Jesus went through. Did Jesus cry out to his Father if it was possible to take away the cup of his wrath 3 times? Did the Father answer him right away? No. Did Jesus sweat drops of blood in Gethsemane? Did he cry out on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? Yes. Did Jesus give up his faith? No. He trusted in his Father. He felt separated, like God's people will feel separated during the time of trouble, but they will claim the promises of God. It's not about feelings, it's about God's promises. Notice Ellen White's description of how Jesus was the victor. Desire of Ages, page 756. Amid the awful darkness, apparently forsaken of God, Christ had drained the last dregs in the cup of human woe. In those dreadful hours, he had relied. Now notice how Jesus remained faithful to his Father. In those dreadful hours, he had relied upon the evidence of his Father's acceptance, heretofore given. In other words, given up to this point. He was acquainted with the character of his Father. He understood his justice, his mercy, and his great love. By faith, he rested in him, whom it had ever been his joy to obey. And as in submission, he committed himself to God, the sense of the loss of his Father's favor was withdrawn. By faith, Christ was the victor. Isn't that marvelous? By the way, do you know that God's people are going to go through a similar experience to the experience of Jesus? I want to read this statement from Review and Herald, April 14, 1896. And I read this in our last presentation, but it's worthwhile reading again. The forces of the powers of darkness will unite with human agents who have given themselves unto the control of Satan. And the same scenes that were exhibited at the trial, rejection, and crucifixion of Christ will be revived. Through yielding to satanic influences, men will be merged into fiends. You know what a fiend is? It's a demon. It says men will be merged into fiends. And those who were created in the image of God, who were formed to honor and glorify their Creator, will become the habitation of dragons. And Satan will see in an apostate race his masterpiece of evil, men who reflect his own image. That's what God's people have to look forward to. But as Jesus did not go by his feelings, by his emotions, oh, I feel up or I feel down. No, Jesus trusted the promises of his Father. Just like this widow trusted that the judge would do justice to her if she continually kept coming. Hebrews chapter 5 and verse 7 describes the agony of Jesus. It says, who in the days of his flesh, when he had offered up prayers and supplications, with vehement cries and tears to him who was able to save him from death, was heard because of his godly fear. Now why did God allow Jesus to go through this? Verse 8, though he was a son, yet he learned obedience by the things which he suffered. He learned to depend on his Father by the things that he suffered. Well, I also wanted to talk a little bit about Esther. The book of Esther describes the same type of time of trouble and the deliverance of God's people from the death decree that was given in the days of Esther. We won't dwell on that anymore. Now, let me ask you, is God going to have, at the end of time, a whole generation that will have the faith that all of these past heroes had in the midst of the tribulation? Do you remember the question that was asked at the end of the parable in Luke 18? When the Son of Man comes, will he find what? Faith in the earth? The book of Revelation says, yes, there will be a group that will have faith. Notice Revelation 13 and verse 10. Both of these verses, we're going to read Revelation 13 verse 10, and then we're going to read chapter 14, verse 12. 14:12 is the conclusion of the third angel's message. It deals with the end time crisis. 13 verse 10 is the transition verse between the persecutions by the beast during the 1260 years and the future persecution by the beast that rises from the earth. So both of these statements is in the context of the final crisis. Notice Revelation 13 verse 10. Speaking about the papacy, it says, "He who leads into captivity shall go into captivity. He who kills with the sword must be killed with a sword." And then right before talking about the beast that rises from the earth that is going to speak like a dragon and is going to enforce the day of the sun and is going to raise an image to the beast, it says, "Here is the patience and the faith of the saints." That word patience can be better translated the perseverance. It's the word hupomone. I know Melvin loves it when I say hupomone. Now, Revelation 14, verse 12, the conclusion of the third angel's message. It says, "Here is the patience of the saints." Once again, the perseverance of the saints. Here are those who keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus, the faith that Jesus had. Now, we have one question that we need to answer in the few minutes that we have left. Why would God allow his people to go through the tribulation? What does it have to do with the great controversy? What does it have to do with God's character? The answer is found in the book of Job. In the book of Job, you have the same scenario that we've described in all these other contexts. Did Job go through a severe time of trouble? Did he lose everything that he had? Did he lose his health? Did he lose the support of his wife? Did his friends turn against him? Did he lose all of his possessions? Did he lose his children? Did he feel like God had forsaken him? Yes, he had nothing to lean on. And yet he said, "Though he slay me, yet I will trust in him." And he said, "I know that my Redeemer lives." He did not go by his feelings, by what seemed to be, by his emotions. He says, "I know God," because he had learned to know God in times of prosperity. Now, you know the story. The Bible tells us that one day the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord. The sons of God are the representatives of the worlds that never sinned. And among them comes Satan. Why did Satan come? Because Satan had stolen the position of who? Of Adam. So Satan comes representing planet Earth. He comes among the sons of God. The other sons of God must also come from other planets representing them. And so God, says, "Have you seen my servant Job? He's a righteous and blameless man. Even though he lives in your territory, he is my servant." And the devil says, "It's because you bless him and everything. You don't give me access to him. If you gave me access to him, you would see that he serves you for the loaves and the fishes. Not because he loves you. He would not be loyal to you. He would forsake you in a minute." And by the way, the heavenly jury is observing, aren't they? They're watching. So what if God says, "You're a liar," and you hadn't done anything about it? The heavenly beings would have wondered, what is God scared of? So God says, "Go for it. Take anything you want. Don't touch him. Do anything you want." The devil goes, and he wipes him out. Another meeting takes place in heaven. Sons of God are there again, observing what is happening. And, by the way, Job said, God gave and God took away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. He did not sin, the Bible says. So in the second meeting, God says, "Have you seen my servant Job? But he's still faithful even though you turned me against him." And the devil says, "You didn't let me touch him." See, if you let me touch him, you would see that he serves you not out of love, but for the loaves and the fishes. What if God had said, "That's a lie," and hadn't done anything about it? The heavenly beings would have said, "Yeah, God didn't allow him to touch it." So God says, "Go for it. Do whatever you want to him, but you can't kill him." Are God's people going to die during the time of trouble? No. Will they be afflicted? Will they feel like everything is lost? Yes. Will they let loose of God's hand? No, they won't. They will have the faith of Jesus, and they will have the perseverance of the saints. Are you with me? And so God says, "Go for it." So he goes and he afflicts Job with boils from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet, so that he had to scratch himself with the potsherd, with a piece of pottery. And yet Job did not apostatize. He did not let loose of the hand of God. He overcame and conquered by faith. in James chapter 5 praises Job for his patience in the midst of suffering. How do you suppose God looked before the heavenly jury? Who was proved right and who was proved wrong? The devil was proved wrong because it was seen that Job served God simply because he loved him. No matter what might come, he did not serve God because of the benefits and blessings. He served God simply because he loved God and he was going to be loyal to God, even if it meant dying to be faithful to God. That is what's going to happen with God's people at the end of time. They will be the witnesses before the whole universe. The universe will say, God is right, Satan is wrong. Look, these people, this final generation, they are faithful to God, even unto death. They have overcome sin, and they're ready for heaven. So God has something to prove. That's why he allows his people to go through the time of trouble. In fact, the time of trouble is a blessing for them too, because it's like going through the furnace of fire. I end by reading one verse. Job says in chapter 23, verse 10, he knew why he was being tried. He says, when God has tried me, I shall come forth as gold. So do you understand the reason for the time of trouble? I hope that we've understood that this time is coming, and may God keep us faithful.